Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. There's even a brand new Brigadier General tier where you can get a shout out on a Commander's Quarters episode that's dedicated to you. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So, over the holiday weekend, Wizards gave a nice little gift to us with an official spoiler on the new Umezawa, Satoru Umezawa. So, what exactly is this new legendary creature? What does it do? And could it potentially be the new best ninja commander? Well, we'll see what Yuriko has to say about that. But anyways, let's jump into it. So Satoru Umezawa is a 2/4 human ninja that costs 1 blue-black. He has, whenever you activate a ninjutsu ability, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them in your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This ability triggers only once each turn. So first off, that is some fantastic card advantage, even taking it a step further than just drawing you a card whenever you activate a ninjutsu ability. It's saying, hey, look at the top 3, pick the best one, and the rest go on the bottom of your library in any order. But that's not even the best part of this card, because the rest of the text says, each creature card in your hand has ninjutsu, 2 blue-black. My goodness, that is a very powerful thing. Now, for those of you that need a reminder as to what ninjutsu is, it basically means that you pay that cost and return an unblocked attacker you control to your hand, and then you put this card onto the battlefield from your hand, tapped and attacking. Essentially, if you're getting a creature through, you can pay the ninjutsu cost to switch out that creature for something else. And again, with this commander, it makes it so that every single creature in your hand has ninjutsu. And obviously, that cost is going to be consistent no matter what the creature is. Again, the ninjutsu cost is going to be 2 blue-black, so yeah, if that's a small creature in your hand that has a low converted mana cost, you're going to be overpaying to get it into play. But more likely, you're going to be using this on massive creatures that have an extremely high converted mana cost that you can just basically cheat into play. Your opponents are going to have to be incredibly careful when they decide not to block one of your creatures because, well, you can just put out a big baddie that can just end them right then and there. But of course, with this type of a commander, you want to build your deck with creatures that are incredibly evasive, so your opponents might not even have a choice on whether to block or not. So get out those low-to-the-ground evasive creatures, swing away, and then cheat in some giant creatures, while also getting some nice card advantage off the top of your deck, because again, this commander is just all about the value. So if you are going to build a deck around this new Umezawa, what kinds of cards might you be considering? So first up, let's talk about those low-to-the-ground and evasive creatures. And yeah, in these colors, you've got access to plenty of them like Slitherblade, Mistcloaked Herald, and Changeling Outcast. Each of these just cost 1 mana, and though they might only have 1 power, again, that doesn't really matter, but they are unblockable. Now, Changeling Outcast also can't block, but that's really not all that big of a deal. Again, the point of these being in your deck is that you can get them out incredibly early and just swing away with them without having to worry about your opponents being able to block them. And if we really want to get spendy by, spending 1 more mana on a creature, how about Invisible Stalker? It's a 1/1 human rogue with hexproof that costs 1 and a blue and it can't be blocked. So this is probably the safest way to actually ensure that you're going to be able to get a creature through without your opponents being able to deal with it because, well, it can't be blocked, number 1, and number 2, it's got hexproof, so your opponents can't target it to stop it from getting through on them. And of course, at 2 mana, it's just underneath the curve for your commander at 3 mana, and then on turn 4, just get a big baddie into play for cheap. And speaking of cheap, again, remember that ninjutsu does not care about actually dealing combat damage. You're returning an unblocked attacker, whether or not that attacker is gonna deal damage. So yeah, a card like Ornithopter, a 0/2 with flying for 0 mana, is fantastic in this deck. The fact that it has no power does not matter because you're going to be able to swap it out with that ninjutsu with something that does have a lot of power. And of course, flying, while it's not a perfect form of evasion, can usually get through on at least one of opponents, so yeah, also consider other low-to-the-ground creatures like Siren Storm Tamer and Fairy Seer. Siren Storm Tamer can be sacrificed to counter target spell or ability that targets you or a creature you control, and Fairy Seer is going to have you scry 2 when it enters the battlefield. So each of these can help out in different ways, on top of being fantastic, evasive, low-to-the-ground creatures. And again, with these colors, you have a ton of fantastic options, though, if you really need to kind of go deep into the card pool, you do have other options when it comes to evasion outside of, flying or unblockability with things like either Fear or Skulk, which we can see on Prickly Bogart and Vampire Cutthroat. Fear again means that this creature can't be blocked except by black creatures or artifact creatures, and Vampire Cutthroat, which has Skulk, means that it can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. Again, keep in mind that there are options when it comes to different forms of evasion and different ways to get your creatures through, but the main thing again is that you're going to want these evasive creatures to be very low to the ground. Moving on though, let's just talk about some of the higher end ninjutsu creatures that we already have access to with things like Fallen Shinobi, Ink Eyes, and Silent Blade Oni. Now, each of these kind of ninjutsu creatures give you a benefit whenever they hit an opponent, which again, they're basically guaranteed to because you are going to be ninjutsuing them in for an unblocked creature. For example, whenever Fallen Shinobi deals counter to a player, that player exiles the top 2 cards of their library, and until end of turn, you may play those cards without paying their mana cost. That is a fantastic effect, and again, these ninjutsu costs are on the higher end, being at 4 mana and up. Which again, actually, our commander is going to have Fallen Shinobi's ninjutsu costs essentially apply to all of our creatures in our hand, so we don't save any mana on Fallen Shinobi, but we can on Ink Eyes. Ink Eyes has an ninjutsu for 3 black, and when it deals counter to a player, you may put target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So again, another fantastic combat damage effect, and again, we can actually save mana on that ninjutsu cost with this creature thanks to our commander. In a similar way, we can save even more mana with Silent Blade Oni, which has ninjutsu for 4 blue-black, and whenever it deals counter to a player, look at that player's hand, you may cast a non-land card in it without paying its mana cost. So keep in mind that these ninjutsu creatures are out there, have some fantastic triggers when they hit a player, and we can actually save mana on some of them. And speaking of saving mana, of course, the first giant creature that comes to mind that you can ninjutsu into play with this commander is Blightsteel Colossus. It's an 11/11 golem that costs 12 mana, but again with our commander it's got ninjutsu for just 2 blue and a black, so that's 8 mana in savings, and of course it's got Trample, Infect, and Indestructible. So just picture this scenario even without any ramp. Turn 1 or turn 2, get out an evasive creature. Turn 3, get out your commander. Turn 4, swing with evasive creature, ninjutsu in a Blightsteel Colossus, and the opponent that you attacked is now gone. And of course, if your other 2 opponents have no way to deal with this, like a Path to Exile, they're not going to be lasting very long either. Speaking of which, outside of Infect, you can also just demolish your opponents with some massive Praetors, like, Shieldred Whispering One or Jin-Gitaxias Core Augur. Shieldred is a 6/6 with Swamp Walk, and it has, at the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. So your opponents are going to be losing their precious creatures while you get more and more, but that's nowhere near as brutal as Jin-Gitaxias, which is just mean. It's a 5/4 flash that has the beginning of your end step, draw 7 cards, and each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 7. So while you get to draw more and more cards, your opponents, well, won't have a hand. And again, usually these cost 7 and 10 mana, but again with your commander, as long as you get a creature through, you can ninjutsu them for just 4 mana. And of course, when we're talking about big, gigantic creatures with a high converted mana cost, we have got to talk about Eldrazi like Void Winnower, and of course Ulamog and Kozilek. Void Winnower can shut your opponents down in absolutely no time. It says your opponents can't cast spells with even converted mana cost, and your opponents can't block with creatures with even converted mana cost. So this can help you get creatures through on top of helping, hurting your opponents and not allowing them to cast spells. And then unfortunately, you won't get the cast triggers from Ulamog or Kozilek because with a ninjutsu, you're not actually casting the creature. So again, it's just so sad that you don't get that when you cast a spell, destroy target permanent, or when you cast a spell, draw 4 cards. But that's okay. Ulamog is an indestructible 10/10, and Kozilek is a 12/12, and on top of that, not the first time that you're attacking them with that ninjutsu, because they already come into play tapped and attacking, but on your next attack, each have Annihilator 4. So when they attack, that defending player has sacrificed 4 permanents, and best of luck to your opponents if you get these out early, because, well, they're not going to have many permanents that they can sacrifice, so they're going to be gone in basically no time. But of course, there are plenty of fantastic options when it comes to really high converted mana cost creatures that you can cheat in with this commander. I mean, let's just even look at some demons with Vil's Broker of Blood, Razkath the Foul-Blooded, and Runescarred Demon. Villas is an 8/8 that has flying, and it has pay a black, pay 2 life, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, and whenever you lose life, draw that many cards. So this can help you get rid of creatures while helping you lose life to draw a ton of cards. And then Razkat the Foul-Blooded is an 8/8 with flying and trample or flample, and it has pay 2 life, sacrifice another creature, search your library for a card and put that card in your hand, then shuffle your library. So again, getting this out is essentially, hey, let's just sacrifice some of those small evasive creatures to go get the exact creatures that we need, like, you know, that Blightsteel Colossus. Speaking of which, Runescarred Demon can help you out in a slightly quicker way, though it's not repeatable. A 6/6 flying demon that has when it enters the battlefield, search your library for a card, put in your hand, then shuffle your library. So this massive flying demon can help you go get whatever cards you want. Again, maybe that's Blightsteel Colossus or an Eldrazi, etc., etc. And of course, though you aren't getting cast triggers, you are getting ETBs, so also consider some cards like Sepulchral Primordial and Delivering Primordial, which have some fantastic ETBs themselves. Sepulchral is a 5/4 with Intimidate that has when it enters the battlefield for each opponent, you may put up to 1 target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And Delivering Primordial is a 5/5 with flying that has when it enters the battlefield for each opponent, you may cast up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost. Now, keep in mind with these, and actually I probably should have mentioned that with that Runescarred Demon, because technically these are repeatable, because again, if you swing with them and get them through, which again they do have some evasion, you can ninjutsu something else out and return this back to your hand as long as it's unblocked, and then you can, you know, do that again to get another ETB. And of course, if you really want to focus heavily on ETBs and abusing those, there are some fantastic cards to pick from, like, you know, Ghostly Flicker or Conjurer's Closet, or of course, Deadeye Navigator. Ghostly Flicker is going to exile 2 target artifacts, creatures, and/or lands you control, then return them to the battlefield under your control. And then Conjurer's Closet is a repeatable effect that has at the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. And speaking of repeatable, Deadeye Navigator, while it's not a free effect, is incredibly repeatable. It has, as long as it's paired with another creature, each of those creatures has pay 1 blue, exile this creature, and return to the battlefield under your control. So again, if you've got a fantastic ETB in play, you can keep using and abusing it with this. Now, will this brand new Umezawa actually take over as the Ninja Tribal Commander, you know, from Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow, which is one of the most popular commanders of all time? Only time will truly tell on that, though Yuriko is not always built in Ninja Tribal technically, and this new Umezawa probably won't be either, you know, because you really don't need to focus on ninjas with this new commander. You just need small evasive creatures and then giant big creatures as well, like, you know, your Blightsteel Colossus and stuff like that. So we will see exactly, you know, how many are actually built in Ninja Tribal. That being said, obviously Yuriko is an incredibly potent commander, and yeah, I definitely believe that the new Umezawa will be as well. So now it's time for me to wrap things up and give you my final thoughts on Satoru Umezawa, and yeah, this is a very spicy commander that can provide you a lot of card advantage throughout the game by, you know, just benefiting you for getting small creatures through and just cheating into play massive creatures that can take over the game so quickly, your opponents are not going to know what to do. So again, time will tell, and we will see exactly how popular this commander is going to be, but yeah, it's quite a spicy design, and I can see a lot of players out there being really excited about it and wanting to build around it. And of course, as always, make sure you stay tuned to this channel for more quick takes and spoilers from the new and upcoming Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.